Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Mike Norris, and we're going to talk about Chapter 7 bankruptcy. This is a topic that there seems to be a lot of confusion in the general populace about it. As a lawyer who has practiced in this area for 33 years, I just want to set some of that confusion straight. I also have a great love for helping the little guy. I've always believed that knowledge is power. As a former full-time professor at the University of Colorado, I really get a kick out of explaining things. Quite frankly, I've been looking at some YouTubes lately and find it rather distressing how much misinformation there is out there, how many people give legal advice and yet don't seem to know much about how the process works. Of course, we all want to know what we're talking about, but I tend to trust the person who gives legal advice and has practiced in that area for decades more than I do the person who just started out or who had a legal experience. Hopefully, I can say that without tooting my own horn too much, because really what we want to do is get good, solid information so people don't have to worry all the time if they've got the right information. This is considered advertising material because I am a lawyer, so if you'll put up with that little bit of self-laudatory advice on my part, we'll move forward to talk about Chapter 7s. The purpose of this video is to discuss how Chapter 7 bankruptcy works. We want to know if that is a process which can be useful to you. We're not going to talk about credit reports and the pros and cons there. We're not going to talk about other issues like debt consolidation, debt settlement, second mortgages on the house to pay off debt. This video simply talks about Chapter 7 bankruptcy. We want to discuss how to protect your home, your car, your wages, and other assets in the bankruptcy courts. First of all, what is a Chapter 7 bankruptcy? Simply, it is the procedure in the federal courts that is proscribed, set down in the 7th chapter of the Bankruptcy Code. That's why we call it a Chapter 7. That federal law provides for keeping your house and car in most cases, forgiving unsecured debt like credit cards and medical. It will usually take a number of months. Often a bankruptcy from the time it's filed is finished up in 3 months. Generally, it shouldn't take too much longer than that. There's one hearing before a trustee. He wants to know if you've listed all your assets, all your debts, and is this all of your income? It can be, in that sense, a fairly straightforward process, and yet, because the creditor lobby is strong, the paperwork becomes more and more complex every year as the courts demand more and more information. But frankly, the guy who's broke is just broke. He doesn't always have all the information. We do our best as attorneys to get you through the process without too much complexity and try to make it as simple for you as we can. It is not a payment plan at Chapter 7. We should keep that in mind. The payment plans in bankruptcy are referred to as Chapter 13s. What are the pitfalls of a Chapter 7 bankruptcy? Well, for most folks who just don't have any money, the pitfall of a Chapter 7 is not everyone can use it. If you have too much income, a Chapter 7 is not available. If you have too much in the way of assets, even life insurance policies with a cash surrender value, Chapter 7 is not available if you expect to keep those assets. Tax debt, which must be paid, Chapter 7 is not helpful. Stopping a foreclosure where you need a plan for back payments, again, Chapter 7 is not helpful. Is the Chapter 7 bad for the credit report? Ironically, it is better for a credit report than a Chapter 13, which is a payment plan. Most lenders like to see that old debt is gone before they're loaning again. Consumer credit counseling, you would think you'd get some credit for trying to pay the debts, but because consumer credit counseling is actually the collection arm of large credit card companies, we don't get a lot of credit for going to consumer credit counseling And frankly, we don't get a lot of effectiveness either. Many times debts are not included in a consumer credit counseling plan, and there's still interest to be paid. Clearly, the Chapter 7, which is not a payment plan but washes out debt, trumps a lot of other options when you just don't have the money to move forward and stay solvent. Advice I would give you on Chapter 7 bankruptcy real quickly from the quite a few cases that we've processed over the last, 3 decades of practicing law. The courts are going to want tax returns, pay stubs, bank statements. They're going to want other evidence of your income or your assets. Mortgages do stay on property, even if the property is, as we say, underwater. It's worth less than the amount of the loans. The alternative, of course, the property can be surrendered. We don't have to hold on to properties in a bankruptcy. They can be given back to the lender in most cases. And one more caution I'd like you to have, you should think carefully about cosign debts. Cosign debts are frankly the big anchor that really prevents financial recovery for so many people. If a car is cosigned, let the person who drives it pay for it. If a home is cosigned, let those who live in it pay for it. Most importantly, I think you should stop worrying and get good, solid information today. From my own review of YouTube in the last few days, I'm a little distressed. There's not a lot of good, solid information out there. There's not a lot of attorneys who have decades of experience putting YouTubes up. I'd like to see more and more information which is accurate across the web and less confusion. Of course, if you want to call personally and ask for some advice, my phone number is listed there for you, and you can always drop me an email at my email address, mike@mikenorrislaw.com. We have a blog that talks about the financial issues, trying to help the little guy understand what he's faced with, and it's often very much of a hard climb to get up to speed on financial issues because of the misinformation, much of it put out by the folks who don't want us to know. Let's face it, your adversary in financial situations doesn't really want you to know how to work the system to your benefit. He wants to work the system to his benefit. I'm putting out other YouTubes all the time, hoping to be more and more lucid, more and more clear for the average consumer and the small businessman to understand how these issues work. So watch for other YouTubes. And please remember that the journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. If you need help, you should get that help from a reliable source and do it quickly. There's no sense in not getting sleep at night over financial matters. Let's face it, life is too short. There are productive solutions out there. I encourage you to find them. And I guess that's about all we can say in a quick video. I wish you the very best of luck in your future endeavors. Mike Norris, signing off.